this is my palette, and these are the two colors I used, well, three colors if you include the white. So over here I have my cold black, which is Payne's Gray. You can use Payne's Gray, you can use cold black, or if you don't have either of those colors, you can mix equal parts of black and ultramarine blue, or you can just use straight up black if you want to. But anyways, that is my cold black. Over here is my earth red. In this instance, I used transparent red oxide, but as you can see, it is very close to burnt sienna type color. Mine is a little bit more reddish, but burnt sienna would actually be a little bit easier to use. Right, and then I have white. In this case, I have titanium white here. So what you're looking at here is my spread. Over here I have pure earth red. Over here I have pure cold black. Right, right in the middle here is a 50-50 mix. This is about 75% earth red, 25% cold black, and this is the opposite. And then one step down, so you see the second row underneath here, this is all of these colors mixed with a little bit of white there. Alright, so these are the only colors that I'm going to be using for this painting. And this here is a much more developed color chart that someone made illustrating just all of the different tones that you can get with burnt sienna, Payne's Gray, and white. Alright, so I want to say here that you can skip through this video. I know it is an hour long. This is so a lot of this video is in 200, 400, or even 800% speed. So this represents about 4 hours of me painting, 3 to 4 hours, right? So I filmed my entire painting. I understand to some of you that maybe like watching paint dry, so feel free to skip around if you want to. The main thing I want you to take away from this is how, in the beginning, this painting looks crazy hot, like really red, but as I get it in context, as I develop this and add some of the cools, it looks less and less crazy, less sunburnt as we move along, alright? And here you can see I'm just kind of starting out. Now this is oil paint, and this is my shellacked charcoal drawing on Bristol. Right, so I regret that I didn't video my palette while I was doing this, but basically you can see I have a value here that is mid-tone, and it is somewhat warm-ish, right? And I am using a mongoose hair brush to brush it on very thinly and lightly, right? There you can see I am going for the upper facing surface of the cheekbone with a lighter value pinkish color. So adding the titanium white to this, one thing to think about is that it is quite cool, right? So anytime you add this to red, it is going to, by nature of that white, cool it down. Alright, I'm going for down by the chin here with a little bit cooled down with a little bit more of that cold black in there. And you can see it's giving it a little bit of more of a tan brown chocolate milk color, right? So I'm starting very tentatively, just lightly brushing some of this on, and you can see I am trying to stay very translucent at first, so that I can still see that charcoal drawing underneath. I am getting some warmer now, so warmer meaning less black here. Alright, brushing that onto the nose, the cheeks. So first I just started covering a little bit up, and now I am trying to establish some warmer areas and some cooler areas. Right, so getting into the lips here, I have more of that transparent red oxide, which is very similar to the burnt sienna that most of you will probably be using. So it's at this time that I want to point out that I drew this charcoal drawing just as sort of like a doodle from my imagination. I wasn't looking at a reference image, and I do have a reference image over there on the left. So that is a reference for my that I'm using for color only. It should be, well, I hope it's obvious that this is not supposed to look like her. I'm just using it as sort of a reference for warm and cool areas. I'm going to go into talking about right now the process for this. So remembering that palette that I showed earlier with my color mixtures, you don't have a lot of decisions to make when doing this. So we have light and dark value, which I've established with that charcoal drawing underneath, and I'm trying to somewhat follow that. You also have warm or cool, all right? So we have some warm areas and cool areas, some red versus blue. So you're adding one more dimension into this, warm or cool, right? Right, so you can see I'm starting to block in some of the shadow areas on the right side with something warmer, getting the kind of eye bag area with some cooler areas. The ear usually is hot. Chin, cheeks, nose, lips, all those things end up being warmer. Right, now here I want to say that I am going darker than I want to end up. Right, so in this still that you can see some of these light highlighted areas that I've put on there, that's just beginning to build up towards the light masses. So as you go towards the light, at least for me, I'm getting cooler and lighter. All right, so all of this super hot, crazy looking warmth that you're looking at right now, it's my plan anyways that it's not going to be there when I'm done. All right, so have faith in the process. Know that if it looks crazy hot to you, you have the ability to change it. All right, what you want to avoid is going too light too soon. Then you will not have any room to go brighter because you'll already be at the ceiling of brightness. All right. So you can see me getting in some of the more cool areas here, some of the first somewhat cool areas, I mean other than the whole black charcoal underpainting. So actually you can see how easily I took that rag and took some off there, but getting these kind of cooler shadows under the eye, under the eyebrow, the eye socket area, right, and then just going in for these really fun highlights. So this highlight color you see here is white and earth red. Right, so this painting, this method is sometimes can feel a little tricky to do without any yellow, right? You know, warm or cool, that's, you know, light or dark, those are the kind of the only decisions you have to make in this again. I also want to point out here, so first of all, thanks for sticking with it this long, that the rest of this video, and most of it actually, is in, I think, 400% speed. So this is about an hour-long video, so you can imagine that it took me about 4 hours to paint, right? So this, what I'm doing here is trying to build up the midtones, all right? So they look like highlights right now compared to how dark everything is underneath it, but I'm starting with these midtones and gradually blending them out, all right? So I'm imagining, right, now I said this is kind of a doodle from my imagination. You are going to be looking at a reference photo, all right? Do not copy mine. I made many mistakes in this, all right? You make your own from a photograph that you find that has a nice clear separation of light and shadow, of warm and cool, all right? So from the light over onto the shadow, right? So I'm going to build up these thicker, brighter layers and softly blend over onto the darker layers, using less pressure as I go, right? You can see I'm also kind of blending in different directions as I blend as well. So you can see I'm putting on the paint rather thick in these highlight areas and then softly, softly blending out with this Mongoose Filbert brush, right? Now, if you look at those chopped up areas that haven't been blended yet, if you're more of a modern, expressive painter and you don't like fussing over things and blending it and you like the raw brush stroke look, feel free to just leave it as is, all right? Or you can do any sort of combination thereof. Sometimes I like to blend these kind of lower layers, these mid-tone layers, and then leave the highlights unblended, right? So it's really up to you, but I'm really thinking about the thickness of my highlight colors, the thinness of those lower, darker colors in their layers, and then really using the brush to blend it. wondering at this point why I have done these specific highlights more than once by now. And the answer is that I put it on, I blend it out as you kind of see me doing here, and then as I'm working around the face, I see other areas where perhaps, oh, that's too warm or too dark and I need to brighten it up. So could I have been more efficient and done this just in one pass? Yes, and that's actually what I was trying to do before I realized that it was, maybe I needed to bring it up more. Alright, so now I'm starting on the sclera, aka the white of the eye there, and you can see I'm getting some cool kind of gray. It's not totally blue, right? There's a little bit of warmth in there to have sort of a neutral gray going towards the lash line with some nice black, and darkening the iris. And you can see me trying to blend, making a soft blending between the shadow cast from the upper lid onto that sclera, and really getting in here and shaping with that line of black for the upper eyelid, right? And then I'm gonna just kind of blend it down with some less intense, less dark areas, and going really for this really darkness in the iris. And you can see that, okay, over on the shadow side of the eye, so our light is coming from the upper left, so I'm making the sclera darker on the right side, because as it rounds that spherical shape of the eyeball, you're not getting as much light. Right, over there on the other eye that's completely in the shadow mask, I am not going to even dream of putting white anywhere near there. All right. So I'm getting a nice dark, very warm color for the line between the lips there, and just sort of blending it upwards into that upper lip. So I'm brushing a little bit of medium warm darks into the shadow mask, because as it is, with just that neutral gray of the charcoal, I didn't feel like it looked like cohesive with that light mask. In other words, the light mask looked too hot. So by making the shadow mask less cool, I'm trying to make it look like it's the same person's skin, but in the light mask and shadow masks, just one with light, one without light. Alright, so at this point I do want to say that this is an hour-long video almost, and I'm not going to be talking for the entire time, so there's going to be times where you can just have the music playing in silence. Alright, so I felt like there may be, in certain videos you may see a certain thing painted and then wonder how that was painted. And since this is YouTube and you have the power of just kind of jumping ahead or backwards, that I can just leave it all in here, and you can choose to skip ahead if you don't want to watch a part where I am not talking, alright?
This is the third or fourth time that I perhaps have overblended, and I am now reasserting these highlights. So what you see here is a combination of my earth red and white with maybe perhaps a slight bit of the cold cold black, mixed in there, so it's not quite so pink. Right, so this does appear to be like a yellowish, but I can assure you I used no yellow. No yellow was used in the making of this painting. Right, so this is cooler, one, because it is, it has that titanium white, which is very cold relative to this earth red that I have, and also a tiny, tiny bit of that silvery Payne's gray color mixed in, all right? So yeah, mostly white is giving me that relative coolness. I think this is the last time I added these highlights, but actually now, yeah, I can see that I probably am going to go in there one more time. So this is a good example of overworking, right? So I have that soft brush that I'm blending with, and I maybe blended too much, all right? But I'm, at this point just kind of having fun. You can see there's a point where when I first add these highlights, oh, it looks like a modern painting. I blend a little bit, it starts to look great. I blend a little bit too much and oh, I lost it, I have to add them again. Alright, so yes, like I mentioned earlier, this could have been done much more efficiently if I had only not blended so much. So a couple words about the hair. I felt like I was to a certain point on the face where I felt like I needed something as a sort of comparison or a reference to put the skin color in context. So you can see my reference photo is a person with red hair. So I started by brushing on just a little bit of a slightly warm neutral brown color for the hair. Even though my video is painting on the eye now, I'm just saying about the hair. I scrubbed it on pretty transparently so that I can still see the beautiful charcoal eraser lines that I did.
in highlights yet again. Now that I have a little bit of that hair color for reference, I'm just putting those highlights back in, just building up the form, trying to add that nice shiny skin texture. At this point that I am scrubbing on, or accidentally skipped where I started scrubbing on some more of this highlight hair color. Again, very translucently. Look how you can really see that charcoal drawing showing through. And that's what's so fun about this technique, is using that as sort of your underpainting. I felt for a really long time that this the skin tone on this painting looked way hot. And if I make the hair even hotter, you can see how it puts the skin color into context and makes it look less hot. So yes, that's almost cheating. So you can see that the upper part on the upper right of the hair, it is cooled down a little, but on the lower left, I'm just using straight earth red, which, as I mentioned, is transparent red oxide, which, again, very similar to burnt sienna. And I'm just kind of scrubbing in with a lot of medium to get it nice and translucent here. I decided to add a little extra pink to the cheeks and nose because it looked as crazy as the sound with how hot it was before. It was looking a little bit cold next to that crazy bright red hair. At this point where I get close to feeling like the skin tone is acceptable to me, that I'm trying to go ahead and firm up some of these edges, like the nostril line and the lip line. eye color for last. In my reference photo of a redheaded person, they had brown eyes, and I decided to go with blue, which in this case, blue meaning gray, right? I have Payne's gray, and right there you can see it is quite gray, right? There's nothing really too bluish about it, except when you look in context with everything else, with the quite warm skin color and the crazy hot hair color, then this, looked at in context, looks something like blue-ish. All right, so I'm just trying to, basically like the drawing demo I gave everyone with how to shade the eye, I'm going over that here with paint instead of with charcoal, so you can kind of see how I get that going. I'm just, lightening, darkening, pushing back and forth till I feel like that looks like a somewhat realistic brightness for that eye to be, right? I had it kind of bright, it looked like a crazy werewolf person. There you can see I'm fixing the sclera. I accidentally used the black paint to take a little bite out of the white of the eye color, so you can see I kind of got in there with some gray and fixed it up. And I'm putting a little bit of light down there by the bottom of the sclera, right? So we have light falling on it. Now notice again, I'm only putting it on the left side, right? The left side, because that's where our light direction is coming from. As the eye curls around to our right, it's not going to be facing the light. All right, so I'm trying to get a nice lightness down there because the upper part of that eyeball is being shaded by that upper eyelid. All right, so if you look at the highlight on the upper eyelid over the eye is going to be actually, brighter than the eyeball itself. So there I am, each time I put a highlight, let's say on the eyeball or somewhere else, and I realize, wow, I really need to get those highlights on the head brighter. Just, as you work on it, you'll see things in context, right? Like you need to work on a different part, right? So I'm continually looking at how bright everything is, how warm or cool. As I bring up a different part of the painting, I'm pausing to consider, like, well, I guess I do need to go put those highlights on for a 7th time. as I'm looking at this now, I feel like there is no cool in this painting at all, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get some light blue and mix it up and carefully start kind of putting it over in the background. I'm a sucker for a nice Renaissance sky as a background color. I'm thinking of how dark that side of the face is and how I can carefully, so you can see I am resting my hand on that maul stick and carefully cutting the edge of the face with the edge of this, and you can see it is still, you know, I want to show those fun little lines of hair that I drew with my charcoal pencil, and I am covering them up with this light blue. So this color is just Payne's Gray, aka my cold black and white, right? So there is no blue in here, and I am really enjoying this color as it, I guess, has a conversation with the same color that I put a tiny bit of in her eyes. So this is one of maybe my biggest area of regret in this painting was when I came in and did these eyelashes. But you know what? I left this in here to show you all that nobody's perfect. I mean, not like I'm saying I thought everyone was going to think I'm perfect, but I do make mistakes, right? As I put these kind of lashes on, I was like, ooh, this does not look good. I really was enjoying the eye, how it looked before, even though it was devoid of eyelashes and perhaps looked a little unnatural. So I kind of painted these on, and, you know, later in the painting you could see me kind of cutting them all the way off, basically painting the eye back on how it was. So the only spot I picked up pure white with my paintbrush is right there, right? So that gives you a little sense of reference for how dark the eye really is, the white of the eye, right? So that's the only spot I put pure white. And you know what, everyone? I thought it was too crazy, so later in the video you'll see me come back with a dry brush and kind of soften that up, because I thought that was like, wow, too bright. Most fun thing I got to do on this painting was paint the little shelf of eyelashes over that background there. anatomical mistakes that I see in this painting right now that I actually did go back in and fix later. One is the angle of that shoulder. Our right, where you can see that shoulder, it angles down in a very uncomfortable, unnatural way, right? So that's not actually the angle that the shoulder would look like. Like I said, I kind of doodled this drawing. The other is the angle of the jaw. So from the ear, the side of the jaw should go straight down and then angle towards the chin, and you can see right here, it just kind of goes at a straight line from the ear to the chin. So that is something I'm acknowledging right now that I do kind of go back and fix later. All right, the eyebrows here I'm painting on after I'm done. So you saw how many times I highlighted that brow bone over on the right, on the left. And now I'm painting the eyebrow hairs on top of it. All right, so do not leave blank holes in the forehead waiting for eyebrows, right? You paint the skin and then you paint the eyebrows on top. So here's a little still image of what it looks like right now. I have to take these crazy weird angles because you can see this has so much glare on it, this shiny oil paint, that you can't see the color. And really, this painting is about color, right? So yeah, the video doesn't pick it up too much, so I'm trying to take these nice still images so that you can get a sense of the color. So you can see I have my little teeny weeny brush out here. I'm trying to get some of these little hairs and little things that bring it into focus. This is typically the last thing I'll do on a portrait, or any painting really, is get out my little baby brush. This is a script liner, a very small one. If you were wondering how many paintbrushes I used on this painting, I used 19 paintbrushes, and this is for a painting that has 3 colors, everyone. 3 colors, 19 paintbrushes. So yeah, so again, little things like I had planned, like getting kind of the eyebrow texture, the hair texture, little flyaway, little hairs and stuff. Save that fun stuff for the very end, because you saw how many times I reapplied those highlights. Imagine if I decided I needed to reapply the highlights, but there's a beautifully painted eyebrow right there in my way. I would end up having to repaint the eyebrow as well, wouldn't I? just a little video of me trying to get this at different angles to avoid the glare. It's very glare-ish, but you can see the color. I'm trying to get, yeah, so it's gonna look all weird perspective-wise, but you can see just how much glare there is, especially the dark areas on the hair. So just trying to see how the colors ended up, alright? So here's just a few more photos that I grabbed of it close up so that you can kind of see the colors and how everything turned out. Yeah, enjoy. Have fun, everyone, doing a painting like this.